Hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast. Really excited about this one today. This is the place where we talk to retreat hosts and transformational leaders, people that are doing interesting things in the world that also happen to be hosting at Imaloa. So whether you're looking at becoming interested in their retreat or exploring more about who they are, perhaps you want to learn more about the transformational leader beyond their retreat, this is the place where we dive in, we dig deep. Occasionally dig deep. Sometimes we got to keep it at the surface level depending on how we're feeling. Today's show, I'm really excited. The Sarahs are back. Well, one Sarah. We have one Sarah that's back because we're doing one-on-one interviews. Sarah Kelly Reid and Sarah Wilkinson are hosting their retreat at Imaloa. Today we're talking to Sarah Wilkinson. Now, honestly, I have rarely met two hosts so beloved by both Imaloa team and other hosts. Retreat hosts that they meet on the fam trip still talk about them today. Their retreat, The Art of Self-Worth, is January 2 to 7, 2024. And it'll be their second one at Imaloa. And this relationship between the two women really has spanned 3 decades. The two of them simply want to be able to create a space for women to connect with their bodies. Anyways, I'm really happy that I'm sorry, that was a little bit of a sloppy introduction, Sarah, because I thought both Sarahs were going to be on here, but we're being authentic and whatever it is. So anyways, I'm so happy you're here, Sarah Wilkinson.
I am so happy to be here. I didn't think that was a sloppy introduction at all.
It wasn't sloppy?
No, it was so kind.
What do all those woo-woo people say? They say use your mess into your message or whatever. Your mess is your message. Anyways, Sarah Wilkinson, who is the half of the two Sarahs that are hosting at Imaloa on January 2. She's a yoga teacher, and she's previously worked in politics. She's a graduate of Hamilton College with degrees in philosophy and history. So happy that you're here, Sarah.
I am so happy to be here. And, the love of Imaloa so goes both ways. We are just so overjoyed to be back in January, having been there in March. We saw the magic firsthand with our people.
Yeah.
That transformation that happened, it was so fun. So we can't wait.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me, having seen so many retreat hosts and transformational leaders come here. And, I kind of joke with people, Sarah, that everybody's getting up at the plate and they're swinging the bat at a ball that doesn't really exist. Like we're all trying to do something that doesn't really exist. Transform, heal yourself. But really, it's just about, and I know that's kind of weird to say that as a retreat center that's sold out for a year and a half of people that are doing retreats, but it's like people are swinging the bat, like take a crack at it, And really what people end up getting is, a return to nature. They get to be in nature. They get to see themselves in a different way. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because there are yoga retreats that host in Costa Rica all the time. We have a few at Imaloa. There is something so universally loved about the two of you that I rarely see among retreat hosts and also our team. So it's like you're really respected by the peers that you've been on fam trips with at Imaloa, but also the team really enjoys you as well. I know it's weird to ask you to reflect on why people enjoy you. Is there something about the two of you and what you guys host? But I think it's important to talk about because it's not just a yoga retreat. Do you have a sense of what this special sauce is that you guys have cultivated?
It's really interesting because Sarah and I talk about that all the time. We talked about it before we were recording, how we decided who was going to do the call today. Because the truth is, Sarah and I are both amazing, wonderful, beautiful people on our own. But for some reason, when we do come together, we just complement and lift each other up. And because of that, we're able to, I think, create an environment where people just feel safe because they can see we're each independent people, but we actually co-create. And we try to make it an invitation for anyone, whether it is the team at Imaloa or the people that are on the retreat with us or just us in general, of how can we co-create what this time means right now. So we always think we know what we're going to do. We always think we know what topics are going to come up for people, but they change and we allow that to change. So we really do I think, focus on listening, and we focus on listening first with the body, which I think is kind of really unique, because so many times when I was taught to listen, I was taught to listen with my head and to try to make the words make sense that the other person is saying. But there's so much more than the words. And sometimes we don't have the right words to talk. And so that's what we really try to do first, is to bring people into the body and notice, oh, how do I feel? How do I want to feel? And how can I help other people to have that same comfort in their body? So I think that was a bit of a tangent, but I think that people see that we're comfortable with who we are, that we're authentic, that we're kind. And I think that we inspire other people to allow their kindness to shine through, and authenticity. We're both weird and have no filter, and that shows really quickly. And I think that also helps people.
Yeah. This string of authenticity is coming up in a number of conversations on the podcasts recently. And it's so beautiful to hear you talk about authenticity, because I do think it's an attractive thing. And I think it's an attractor. I think it's magnetic. And I think it's the one thing, I always say, Sarah Wilkinson, we have a lot of different people that come to Imaloa. And we have some crazy people that come to Imaloa. I mean, because, it's makes it interesting. And I always tell the team, I say there's a distinction between someone who's inauthentic about their inauthenticity, and there's someone, as opposed to someone who's authentic about their inauthenticity. Some of the crazy people, and crazy, I say crazy in like a fun-hearted way, people who are a little left of center, a little weird, whatever it might be, right? People who host retreats, sometimes they're a little weird. It's okay. But if they're authentic about that, I got all the time in the world for them. It's people who are putting on a front, who are trying to be something other than they really are, trying to be seen as something other than they really are. And when they're crazy, that's when they get kicked out. It happens very rarely, but the string of authenticity, I think, for retreat hosts and transformational leaders leading, I think it comes with a certain level of experience in life, but also like perhaps of a certain age. Although we have hosts that are young that are authentic about how they show up, and it really works. Authenticity seems to be the new, I was like the new currency.
I completely agree about that. I think especially because we live so much more in that world of social media, of quick content. And at least for me, when I first got on social media, right? Like, I'm a millennial, an elder millennial. And so
wait a minute, are we both elder millennials? What is this? How old do you have to be an elder stateswoman or statesman in the millennial generation?
I'm like at the cusp of like millennials, so I call myself.
How old are you?
I'm 42.
Okay, so I'm cusping right behind you then. I'm cusping.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so we're elder statesmen and stateswomen. I like that. Okay, go ahead.
We're like the elder millennials.
So when you first got on social media, I first got on social media in 2004 from my dorm room in New York City. When did you get on social media?
Oh, wow. I got on in 2005 when I moved to Washington, D.C. And I was like, the first time I was in an office, and everyone was like, why don't you have social media? And I was like, anyways, it was so wild though, because it was all curated back then, like you really cared. And like, especially when Instagram came on the scene, like how you look. And it became really hard, especially in the wellness world, to know like what was real and what wasn't real. And I think that's why authenticity is making such a comeback. Like, you see yoga teachers like me posting their yoga pose fails, and just, or how they actually look in a yoga outfit instead of that perfectly angled picture.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I think, I'm just remembering the first time I went into a headstand in a yoga class and everybody gasped. And I said, could you mind your own business, please? And look at your practice. Cause I'm a bigger guy going into a head. So I was thinking about like how to be authentic even in yoga. Anyways, you've said that in your work, and this is really interesting to me, that boundaries can be expansive. Boundaries are expansive. So I thought that this was a bit of a radical statement that you all kind of live by and curate these retreats by. How are boundaries expansive? Some people, when I read that and when I was learning more about what you thought about that, I thought of boundaries being like walls that you put up around you. How actually are boundaries expansive?
So we look at boundaries as again, as an interplay with you and the environment that you're in, be it people, be it places. You're going to have different boundaries if you're at work, if you're at home, if you're somewhere in between. And so the fact of the matter is we each have the same amount of time in the day. And I'm not using that Beyonce has the same number of hours as we do, so we should be like Beyonce. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that time is a finite thing for us. We can't expand the amount of time that we have in theory, right? So we have 24 hours. How do we want to use them? What a boundary allows us to do is to take a look at our priorities and to actually match our priorities with where we put our time. So I like to look at it as back when because I did work in politics, which very much does not focus on work.
Which is very bizarre to me because, then I meet you and I'm like, how did this individual work in politics? What capacity were you working in politics?
This probably won't surprise you, but it was a lot of community building. So I started by doing field work, like going out and talking to people, figuring out what issues were most important to them, translating them, actually empowering them to vote. Because a lot of what I was doing was, I lived in Nevada at the time, which was a swing state. There's so many people that just didn't feel like their vote mattered. And if all of those people had gone out and voted, Nevada would have swung the other way. So that was how I really got impassioned about politics, and I kept working on it after the 2004 election because of that. But one thing that politics is not good at is respecting personal time, personal space. And that was my early 20s, but I was literally working 7 days a week, at least 10 hours a day. And I loved it. I was like in it. I was like, yes, let's work. Let's change the world. But I would get really burned out because I had no boundaries. I lost so many friends during that time. I lost some really good relationships because I didn't have boundaries in place to prioritize those. My college friends would go and have a reunion and I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I have to go to make sure that we win this district, and it was a lot of those things right after college. So for me, I look at boundaries as, I realized eventually I didn't want that to be my life, right? I realized that I needed some tools to help me to shift where I put my time. Now I did that, of course, the extreme way. I moved to India for 2 years.
As you do, you moved to India. But I'm curious, before we get to India, so the boundaries, or this idea of matching priorities with, you said it's matching priorities with the time that we have.
So for instance, if you say, go ahead.
All I was going to ask is, I find that interesting because if you can actually be deliberate with that, I imagine you start to get to the foundation of self-worth, which is your retreat, the art of self-worth. Does it all kind of connect? Am I connecting something that should be connected?
You're doing it. You're doing it, Jake. Yeah. So basically, we oftentimes think of boundaries as saying no. We're saying no to things. We like to shift that. What are you saying yes to? Where do you want to put your energy? What do you want to take up time in your life? And so the boundaries are to protect those things. So instead of saying, yeah, I'll take on that other project, instead you look at your boundaries. You're like, no, actually, my priority is to my significant other. We have a standing date on Tuesday. Sorry, work. I can do that tomorrow. So it's all about healthy boundaries help to protect the things that you value, love, and care about.
And when you start to really unpack this for people in their lives, and I don't think it's too simple of a question. I was just thinking to myself, is this too simple of a question? But where are the roots of where we lose boundaries for ourselves? Where are the roots of when we start to not value ourselves or to decrease our self-worth? Again, I'm tying it back to your retreat and the concept of your retreat, but also what you all teach. It seems so simple, like have self-worth or the art of self-worth or have boundaries. But in order to understand it, I'd love to understand where we lose it. Where are we losing it? And are we able to go to the root and figure out what we're doing there?
I love that question. And, you know, when you said it, it really did bring me down to my core, like down into the heart. I think the answer is probably different to everyone because.
When did you lose it? Let's talk personal, because I know some personal things about you. I don't know how much you want to share about it, but what personally led you on the path to discovering your own self-worth?
You know, I think for me, it was external first. I looked around and I saw what I thought other people had. Now, of course, now I realize that 85% of people have issues with self-esteem, right? It wasn't just me suffering with my self-worth. It wasn't just me not being able to hold boundaries, but it felt like it was. And so that in and of itself kind of jiggled around, like, why can't I do this when other people seem to do it so well? For me, like the root of it, Jake, is probably like childhood, like so many of us, right? Like, I was the eldest daughter and eldest child of the generation. So we had an intergenerational house, and I don't think there was actually pressure. I think I put pressure on myself to be and seem perfect, like to get the A's in school, to take care of my younger siblings, to tidy up the house and stuff like that. It was external pressure. Like, I do not think that my mother put that on me. I think she would be horrified to know that I put that on me. But like, I do think that for me, it was when I was going through puberty and like just putting those pressures on myself, like that shift from childhood, I can do anything that I want to then looking at the adults in my life and being like, oh, okay, maybe I need to shift what I am to more fit into what is. And now, of course, what we're trying to do, this is a journey that I think we all need to go on if we're lucky enough, instead of what we are programmed to do, whether by ourselves, by society, by others. I have been lucky enough to be able to do, again, as an adult, to live how I want to live, to create my own boundaries. And that is the true point of our retreats and the true point of our work, to help others do that.
But I imagine that you have to, at least this was true for me when I got into my 12-step program, but a bottom has to be hit. So you're putting this pressure on yourself as the eldest. You said the eldest in an intergenerational home. Got that. And then it manifested into something, maybe working a lot in politics. Like, how did the lack of self-worth, lack of boundaries manifest in your life? What was that bottom like that now allowed you to come out the other end and support others?
Like we always say, both Sarah and I not struggle, but we have addiction in our past. Where it comes out for me is, I have a history of anorexia, but more where I hit my bottom was with my workaholism. Mm-hmm. I love working. I don't think that's the word. What is it?
Workaholic? I've heard it. I've heard of workaholic. Yeah.
I feel like that was very much how I created control in my life in my 20s, was by getting all my value out of work. Like, I wanted those promotions. If I didn't get those promotions, I would fight harder for them. I would go to my bosses with proposals. I would be like, we need to go after this new client. We need to do this. Like, I was so passionate, and I really saw no problem about how much effort and energy I was putting into work because I loved my work.
I mean, I'm sure this is striking so many people. I loved it too. I remember sleeping in my office because I loved my work when I was in my 20s. I was like, now I would be like, what am I doing? Unless I have a comfortable bed at my office, certainly not going to sleep on a beanbag, but 17-hour days was like a badge of honor. And what's interesting about these aholics, whatever it is at the end of aholic, alcoholic, a bit less socially acceptable, certainly a drug use, less socially acceptable, anorexia, right? But workaholism, it's revered in American society, in society in general, in capitalistic society. And so it's a challenge when, when it's revered and it's not actually, there's no stigma. In other words, shame can sometimes point us in a different direction, but you really have to kind of hit a certain bottom, either with your energy or your adrenals or whatever it is. I think that's very valuable for people to hear. because we don't, there's not really a conversation around it. You've also said something interesting, Sarah, or one of the Sarahs did, I'm sure you could speak on it, is that numbing out isn't actually always bad. When have you numbed out and it's been to your benefit?
This is great. So first of all, I used work back in my 20s to numb out. Okay. Like, so that's one example where it was a not positive thing. But here's a great example that actually just happened this week. So I'm dating a new person.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited. I like them a lot.
Okay.
And I haven't liked
Did you say they're them or him?
Them.
Them.
Yes.
Okay.
So they go
just want to make sure I use the right. I just try to make sure I'm using the people's right pronouns because it's a new thing for me.
It's okay if you mess up. They probably won't listen to this conversation, but if they do, they'll be okay.
Okay, good. Good. So you started dating someone, you're feeling very excited.
Very excited. Haven't felt this excited in years. So it brings up new things that I haven't felt in a while. Now, normally, because I have all of this work that I've done, like, I'm very chill about communicating styles, right? Like, you write somebody, they write you back. Okay, I'm being like the stereotypical woman in this situation, right? Like, we had a great date, but a very vulnerable conversation. Like, I shared a lot of things that I was so comfortable to share with, but you know how sometimes you have that sharing hangover the next day?
Yeah.
And like, we had some nice texts, and then I texted something and he didn't text back for 12 hours, and I was in a spiral. And I was like, I know this person likes me. There's no reason to not think this person likes me. It's been 12 hours. This was a time that I was able to notice I need to do some work. So I tried what normally works, yoga, didn't work. I tried gardening, didn't work. Called up Sarah, talked her ear off, didn't work. Finally, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like play some solitaire. Just gonna play some solitaire.
It ends in solitaire. I wondered where this was going, and you said it ends in solitaire. I love how weird you are, Sarah. Okay, go ahead. So now you're playing solitaire, you're trying to numb yourself out. That's what you're getting to. You're trying to numb out.
Yeah, numbed out for like an hour, just playing solitaire.
Okay, that's great. That's not what I was expecting. Well, that's great. Well, I hope this relationship is fabulous. Okay, no, but so numbing out, that's a great story, actually. I appreciate you sharing it.
Another story.
What?
I can share another story.
No, it's a great story. So numbing out, but it's an interesting thing because a lot of people are like, don't numb out. You go into a 12-step program so that you start feeling your feelings. You start talking to people so that it comes up to the top. But you're saying sometimes it's actually productive. Solitaire. You got some gardening done. You practice some yoga.
Did it all. Did all my normal self-care things. They weren't working. Took a break. Got out of my head. Numbed. I stopped feeling what I was feeling in my body. And then I was able to come back to it. And then I was able to process it.
But see, you're able to come back to it. So there's a practice there that a lot of people don't have when they're numbing out. So what is the link between being able to numb out and then come back to presence or reality or whatever it is? What is that?
That is a lot of what we teach, is like to notice when your body has become re-regulated again, and then you can, but that is a skill. So really simple, if somebody wants to try this practice, just listening. The first time you do it, set an alarm for 20 minutes, and then check in with yourself. How do you feel after 20 minutes? Or if Sarah Kelly was here, she would have given the example of Bachelorette or She Loves reality TV show. So that's her numbing tactic. So if that's your numbing tactic, what I would say is, make sure that you don't just blindly hit next episode, but maybe like after 2 episodes, get up, take like a walk, get a water, go to the bathroom, see how you feel. Are you okay to come back into your body? Can you come back into presence? Do you need a little bit more numbing out? Numbing out's not the permanent solution.
It's almost as if you're giving permission, and by giving the permission, that allows you to get out of it. It's almost like when it's unconscious, that's where a spiral can happen. That's the sense I'm getting from what you're sharing.
That's exactly what it is. And it's hard for a lot of us to notice when we're in a spiral. So if you find yourself just wanting to, another great numbing is nap, go take a nap. Like other people like to, some people find running a way to engage with their mind, but other people run so that they can numb. So like even what is numbing for me might be like in the body for another person.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Great distinctions. I'm curious, what can happen when women invest in themselves at something like a self-worth retreat? What can actually happen for women when they invest in themselves?
So first of all, I love that you made this gender specific, because I do think that women have some unique barriers that we need to overcome in investing in ourselves. I think though, when we're able as women to realize that we are worth it, that, and if you're not there yet, because I know when I first started this work, I did not think that I was worthy of a $3,000 retreat. I didn't. I do now. I know I'm worthy of it, and I can promise that you are too. But if you're still doubting that, think about your community. Think about who you support on an everyday basis, be it your family, your friends, your pet, your coworkers. Think about how you're feeling right now. Are you tired? Are you exhausted? Are you being your best self? Because really, when we as women invest in ourselves and give ourselves the care that we need, we really are able to come back more fulfilled and more ready to be that giving, caring person in the rest of our world. So I hope that you're at the spot where you already know you are worthy of countless retreats, yearly retreats. But if you're not there, think about how amazing it's going to be to bring these tools, bring these skills back to your community. I would switch that.
That is for people who are transformational leaders or retreat hosts or educators. Hearing you make it about the community that you return back into is so powerful. And I think people should take note of that, because that's a really beautiful. A lot of transformational leaders struggle with the value proposition of like, how do I create something that people want to come to? But when you make it about other and about self, I could even feel myself like, I was even teetering. I was like, am I worthy of a $3,000 retreat? Yeah, I went to India recently and that was, but it's like, if I would have gone to India thinking about the community that I return into and how that can positively impact them, whether it's family or friends or work, I'll be honest, I was a little selfish when I left on this most recent retreat. I was like, I'm going to do it for myself. I need the break. But I think you've really just opened something up inside of me that the next time I go off and I do something for myself, a retreat to rest, I'm going to think about how it can positively impact the community. It's like you come back with an offering to the village. That's a really beautiful way to think. I'm having a moment, Sarah. That's really beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And it's so, and
so it's also a good way for you to get people to give you the $3,000. I mean, it's like, it becomes a no-brainer. I mean, it's smart. I don't have a problem with business. You don't have a problem with business, but it's like, what's behind it? Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Why do you want to do it? And also, just for people listening, Jake, I want to say that wasn't selfish of you going to India because you needed it. That was you knowing your worth. That was you being like, I am worthy of this time. So I think that's really powerful too.
Maybe. I mean, I was honestly clinging. I was clinging. Okay. I needed a break. I was like, I need a deep rest and reset. I did a panchakarma. I think next time, now that we've had this conversation, next time I'll go with the intention of I was worthy of it. I don't think I even did it because I thought I was worthy, maybe unconsciously. It's a very interesting conversation, right? Because thinking of others who are listening to this, who are like, am I worthy? Is the 3,000 worth it? Can I get away from family? And then you reframe it like this. It's a really smart way to do it. It's a really smart. See, this is why the people enjoy you. The Sarahs, they enjoy the Sarahs.
And we saw it, we were at Amaloa in March. First of all, I've seen it in me, but since then we've had women completely change their career path.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. Be like, I want to work more with animals. A woman that came, she has been struggling with what to do for a while. She gave herself that space, that gift, totally changed her entire purpose, helped her connect to her purpose. And that's what giving yourself a retreat does. That's why it brings you back stronger. You're able to tap into your true self.
What other types of things have happened to folks that have attended your retreat? This is really interesting to chart because it you can show like an ROI as a participant. If you're thinking about coming on the Art of Self-Worth retreat, you can start to track an ROI. Can you give me a sense of what others have experienced?
We've definitely had multiple people do a lot of work around body image. So that, I think this past retreat was one of the most, it seems like such a small thing even when I say it, but I want to stress these were all women. We were all together. Women had never worn bikini tops for like a decade and felt empowered to wear it.
Wow.
But yeah, that didn't just change there. That would be one thing if that was just in like the boundaries of the retreat. No, like these same women are posting these pictures on social media because they know that they are radiant and beautiful in them. Like the change of being fearful to even like wear the bathing suit you want to wear to posting it on social media and being like, look at me, I am beautiful and gorgeous. Like that was a transformation I was so happy to see with multiple of our people. Sometimes not this particular retreat, but in past retreats, we've had women readjust their relationships romantically. People leaving partners.
Readjust. What a lovely readjust. Come on, Sarah. People are getting divorced after they come to your retreats. They're getting into relationships. Let's be honest.
Yeah. All right, they're breaking up.
Readjust. What is this? Is this part of the woke? Like I'm readjusting my relationship, Sarah?
I was trying to be nice because some people like they don't all end badly. Some people like take it a step further, but yeah, most people.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen a lot of people. It's interesting. People come to Imaloa on different retreats at an intersection, and there's something about like your gut getting cleansed and the curriculum that hosts are teaching and the nature where people just get clear. Like clarity just comes. It's not like you become impulsive. It's just clarity.
That's the word. It's. None of these decisions are impulsive, but it's that each of these women had a chance to listen to what their heart was saying, to track through their body. And I think for some of these things, we're able to connect with the other community of women that also saw their beauty and their worth and, again, lifted them up and empowered them to keep making that change. Our group from March is still on the WhatsApp chat, like every week, like connecting and talking with people. And like, that's what we want to do. Like, yes, Imaloa can deepen the community, but the magic of Imaloa's connections is that it sustains it when people leave also.
I think that what you're also saying that I think should not be underestimated is managing expectations about those who choose to come. In other words, I mean, we talked about divorce and reimagining relationships and all this. Those are the bigger things. Smaller things like the bathing suit and the social media. Imaloa is not here, and your retreat, I would say, is not here to have massive transformation. But if you can make a dent, that dent can start to become bigger and you can start asking different questions. You can be in inquiry. And so I always tell or share with retreat hosts, like, don't oversell it. Like, honestly, if the bathing suit experience that you referenced in your retreat, if that's what happens, that's worth it, because that will start to have effects in the future. It's like, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Definitely. Those, like what we're calling small changes, are actually where the magic is. Like if you just leave the retreat having done yoga for 5 days in a row and your body feels good, oh my gosh, you can bring that back with you. I think like that bathing suit example, I think is just as transformational as breaking up with your partner, because that's something that they've held with them for decades.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes our partners are too. Sometimes we're holding on to people for way too long.
So true. Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you that are listening, have you ever imagined being able to take time for yourself to discover something new about your own worth, but maybe you're not knowing where to start? Sarah, as someone who knows they need to take time for themselves, but they aren't willing to, they aren't willing to, right? That's the key word. They know that they need it, but they aren't willing to. What do you say or do for that person?
So most of us feel like we need to do more self-care. or more on our worthiness, right? Give ourselves more me time, however we phrase it. And what I would say first is, why don't you want to do it, right? Is it that you don't have enough time? Is it that you're overwhelmed because we live in the modern world with too many options? Is it that you've tried things before and they haven't worked? Like there's a lot of reasons. And then once you figured out why you don't, are you afraid of change, right? Like, are you not changing because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like all of these could be what's holding you back. So what I would say, no matter what, if you have a concrete reason, you can start working on it. If you don't know what to do, we'll send you a link. We actually have a quiz. It's 6 questions, gives you 3 practices to do based on how you answer the questions. So then if you're feeling overwhelmed or you don't know what to do, try that.
That's great. I mean, it's a great way to enlist people into the possibility and start the conversation. We're actually going to give the link for that quiz. I thought that was such a creative way to engage with people. And, on the other side of self-care, like you talked about, is really being burnt out. And so many people are skirting on the fringes of burnout or are already there. And a corporate coach, actually, one of the investors of Imaloa, who does a lot of corporate coaching in Europe, explained to me burnout. This is really interesting, actually. Explained to me that burnout is not necessarily working too much. It's how we choose to spend our time when we're not working. And so when I think of the art of self-worth, getting these tools and modalities so that we have resources, so that we can be resourced when we do have times of rest, when we're back in our everyday lives, actually can help us with the burnout. Oftentimes, burnout is not because people are working too much. It's because of how they're using their rest and restore time. I was like blown away by that. And now I see the value of retreats like the art of self-worth. I mean, I've always seen the value, but I see it in relationship to people that are just getting burnt out,
That I have never heard it phrased that way. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I do think, like when you said that, I was like, right, it's the correlation between burnout and resilience. Right? Like, what are you doing to refill your cup?
Yeah.
Right. And a retreat gives a lot of liquid for your cup. It like really helps you to refill. You can keep it sustained, but hopefully good retreat will give you some transformation that happens so that you can keep filling your cup a little bit. You can use that downtime a little bit more effectively when you go back to your life.
I love it. Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the 5 days of the retreat. Of your retreat coming up in January. So give us a sense, don't get too specific. I know we could talk forever, you and me. Give a sense of people who are listening, what the daily flow will be like and really what people will gain or learn or experience. Give us a sense of that.
So throughout the time together, we call it a journey of the heart. And what it is it really takes a look day by day at different topics that we have found to be most impactful to really help you to feel better when you leave. So day 1, it's all about getting into your body. Makes sense because we've just traveled to Costa Rica. We do a great little ritual down by the waterfall. And just every day we focus on something else. Self-forgiveness. We do boundaries. We spend a lot of time on boundaries. And then most importantly, we leave with everybody having an action plan. So this isn't like a typed out action plan, nothing like that, but just like when you go home, we want to make sure that you have a couple of things that you're going to try to implement. We want to make sure that you are prepared, not just when you're in the beautiful jungle of Imaloa, but also when you go back home.
Got it. Beautiful. Well done. Really well done. Well done how you all have molded this and sculpted this out. I'm happy for you. And if you've been listening and you think, gosh, this is interesting, I need to get some more information, you can go to imaloainstitute.com/art of self-worth. Art of self-worth. imaloainstitute.com/art of self-worth. And it'll direct you to that creative quiz that Sarah was referencing earlier. They've put together so that you can discover, they put together this quiz so that you can discover what you might be needing from a retreat or what kind of support that you need in your life. Thank you, Sarah. I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, I was so grateful for you, Jake. Thank you so much for having us on. It's like Sarah's still here.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And maybe we'll have to do one of these with her because she has such a different yet same, you guys are obviously linked, and this is a project that you guys do together. And by the way, not often, retreat hosts are usually more successful when they do single retreats, but if two retreat hosts get together and it works, it can be dynamite. So I'm so happy that you guys, that it's working and that you continue to choose Imaloa. The Art of Self-Worth Retreat returns to Imaloa January 2nd to 7th, 2023. And prices start at just $29.95. Thanks for making it affordable for the people, Sarah.
We feel so strongly about that. We do offer 2 scholarships also. Thanks also to the generosity of Imaloa, we're able to offer airplane stipends to our 2 scholarship winners this year. So last year we weren't able to help them get to Costa Rica, and this year, thanks to Imaloa, we are, and we are so appreciative of that. But we know not everybody wants to apply for the scholarship, so we do have 2 quads at that lower rate because we do want everyone to come.
I love
Everyone's worthy of it, whether you have the money or not.
And by the way, January 2nd to 7th, so you've gone through the hullabaloo of Christmas, you've been triggered, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you're celebrating, you've done your New Year's, whatever that is. Get to the Art of Self-Worth Retreat, y'all. It's literally the best time of year in Costa Rica. Y'all got the best dates. I mean, these are the dates. I think you booked them a while ago. Like that early January time, people love decompressing in an environment like Imaloa at a retreat like the Art of Self-Worth. So I'm stoked for you. Congratulations.
Me too. We're so excited. We can't wait to be back.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Sarah. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Bye.
Bye.